NIO is winning against Tesla, at least when it comes to the war of talents and here in Berlin. So, you may have heard the news back then when Giga Berlin was announced that Tesla also wanted to do a R&D center in Berlin. As far as I know, this never got reality. So, Tesla's got a Gigafactory in Berlin. However, they don't have this Entwicklungszentrum, which is an R&D center here in Berlin, as far as I'm aware of. Instead, it's the Chinese startup NIO who's announced that they are going to invest into an R&D center here in Berlin. And they just opened that one at the 4th of July. Here you see the general manager of NIO. He's actually, by the way, I think one of the best connected Chinese businessmen in Europe, and I think that's also one of the benefits here of this new innovation center in Berlin, which is that NIO has really managed to position itself well in Germany, within the community, the business community, the political community and environment. You can see here there are lots of guests invited at this event, and some of them are coming straight out of politics, some are possibly NIO employees, future employees. And by the way, I managed to show you this footage this time because, first of all, thanks, NIO invited me to the event. However, I was at that time in China, so I couldn't go there myself. But one of our Patreon members got the invite. I just forwarded it to him and he went on my behalf. So that's why we can now look at these videos here. Thanks again if you're watching. I hope you enjoyed the event. And well, coming back to what this means for NIO here, it's of course an investment somehow. And you know, the question is like how intelligent it is that NIO is having all of those different R&D centers around the world, like Oxford, California, now here in Berlin. They also have a studio in Munich, of course, and then stuff in different regions in China. So, you know, if you want to be critical about it, it's kind of, you know, how well is this capital used? Are there some double hirings possibly? But then on the other hand, this can really also help to localize the product a lot, to get this talent here in Berlin, which is, you know, really, you get the best talent in Europe, I would say, in Berlin. And then again, this type of community events are very important, I think, to be a stakeholder in the market here and to, you know, network and show off what you're doing. And that's exactly what NIO did here. Some of the NIO employees have actually talked a bit about the product. I'll go into one specific element in a second here. What is interesting, of course, will be, can NIO brand itself a little bit more in the area of AI, for example, here? I know this has been one of the topics here during this event. So, for example, Nomi is getting developed here in Berlin, it seems, or at least localized. So, I think that is part of the future of NIO, right? That hopefully the digital assistant is getting more and more sophisticated and intelligent, and hopefully can also leverage some work of training some large language models, and possibly NIO can manage to extend this Nomi made personality into the phone, into other areas of NIO life. And so let's see where this strategy is headed and what role Berlin may play in this. Now, this is one specific aspect that I would like to talk about because this has to do with NIO's capabilities with software. And to be frank, especially after benchmarking lots of the players in China, NIO really is, you know, not the leading player when it comes to software. I would say right now Huawei is doing a perfect job with the Hongmeng OS. However, in addition to all of the software updates that are currently happening with the OS, I also noticed and tweeted the other day that NIO has started hiring new positions that look quite interesting to me. For example, here, staff kernel developer, NIO vehicle operating system. Notably, that is in San Jose. So will be interesting to see what role actually this Berlin R&D center will play there. But they're hiring for kernel engineers and Linux developers and so on. And, you know, this is getting really at the heart of the vehicle. So we got those hirings in the US, and then here in Germany during the Innovation Center opening, also a little bit of information about how NIO has picked the operating system that the vehicles are running on. Let's hear for ourselves.
We also have some other players that decided to add one additional layer on top, an application layer, Google Automotive Services. That is a route, for example, that Polestar or Renault decided to take. Other players rely heavily on smartphone replication technologies like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and then other players decided to go with a Linux-based operating system. I'm just giving you, let's say, our market understanding, the picture of the market today in the infotainment world. Now, what we decided to do is to go for Android Open Source Project, AOSP. So our infotainment systems are mostly based on AOSP. Of course, other operating systems are also used for certain parts of the ECU, like QNX, but mostly Android Open Source Project. And this gives us three key advantages. The first one is that AOSP is a highly international and well-known framework that allows us to host many third-party apps developed by Android developers across Europe. So having AOSP means that we can leverage the digital ecosystem of Android developers throughout Europe. Another key benefit is linked to the first one, which is the speed at which we can launch new features. So AOSP is an internationally recognized framework, and that means we can easily, quickly install new applications in our head units. As a matter of anecdote, very often when a third party sends us an Android file, an APK, we can try to install it, and then on the first run, it goes. So we can install it on the first try. Of course, we very often have to make some changes on those APKs, but that is really a testament of the fact that Android Open Source is allowing us to host many apps from third parties quickly, which is very important. And then the third benefit is the fact that AOSP gives us a very high level of maneuver margin to customize the system experience so that we can convey NIO-ness to the end user, so that there is a brand flavor that users can feel when they drive our cars. So that is very important.
As you've heard in this quick snippet of the presentation, NIO is relying on Android open source project, I guess mostly also because of its international scalability and the three benefits that he has mentioned there. And then in there's also possibly ways how you can, modify the Linux kernel and so on. Why I'm talking all about this is because I think what is interesting to see about NIO's future is in how far they will be in control of their own operating system for the vehicles, but possibly much beyond that, right? I just spoken about Nomi. We got the NIO phone. Most likely there will be some convergence between different systems, and this multi-modality will become a very important tool of differentiation and competitiveness, especially when those likes of Huawei and Xiaomi and so on are entering the automotive industry. So I think these are very important steps. From my point of view, what is also super important is whether or not NIO can become better at having more responsive software that feels very intuitive, very native. More recently, the NIO software has become better and better again. But before that, we have to be honest that NIO software felt a bit more slow and less responsive and less snappy, let's say, than some of the competitors there. So these are important choices. NIO is investing in it with R&D centers, with innovation centers. And yeah, that's the essence of this video. I hope you enjoyed that. If so, please smash a like, share this video, and consider to become a patron to support this channel and maybe get access to events like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.